You are welcome to the Principles of Marketing class. Gradually, we are coming to the end of this model. We are on Unit 5, which basically talks about one of the marketing mix known as place. And at Unit 5, we have 6 sessions. Session 1 looks at functions of channel intermediaries. Let us elaborate more on that. By the end of this session, you should be able to list and explain the functions of channel intermediaries, explain what a marketing channel is and why intermediaries are needed, distinguish between producers, wholesalers, retailers, agents, and consumers. Now, let us talk about the marketing intermediary. Marketing intermediary. People wonder if intermediaries are really necessary. Yes, they are. Some also wonder if they don't increase the cost of products to consumers. No, they don't. Some ask the question that wouldn't consumers save money if they cut out middlemen and purchase directly from the producers? The answer is a big no. Without them, the prices of the products or the cost that customers incur on the product would go up. Marketing intermediaries, sometimes called the middlemen, are businesses that help move products from producers to final consumers. Middlemen are at the heart of the distribution process just because they move the product from the manufacturer or the producer's point of production right to the consumer's point of consumption. Retailers sell products directly to consumers. Wholesalers sell products to retailers, to manufacturers, and to some consumers who use the goods to make other products, to governments and to large institutions that purchase in quantity. This should tell you that in the distribution channel, we can't do without marketing intermediary. In moving products from the producer to the consumer, merchant wholesalers take title. With merchant wholesalers, they take ownership to the products they distribute. For example, those who sell groceries and hardware stores per se, they are merchant wholesalers, and there is a transfer of ownership from the producers to them because they go to purchase the product. Agents bring buyers and sellers together and assist in making exchange, but they never own the product. When we talk about agents and principal relationship, we will say that with agents, even though they may have the product in their possession, they only try to bring the buyer and the seller together so that there can be a transaction, just that they don't take title or they carry no ownership of the product. Wholesalers and retailers exist because they perform special services. If not for that, the responsibility would fall back on manufacturer as part of the production specialist duties. These important distribution functions can be carried out more efficiently and effectively by the distribution specialists, who are also known as the middlemen. Without the middlemen, the added cost of transporting goods would even be greater to customers or consumers. Let's take this for instance. I am into the production of shito, like I keep on saying. Sometimes I get people ordering from Trepone, from Tumu, from Gambaga, from Tamale. Some day I got an order from Wa. Let me ask this question. Without the middlemen, how would I ever have gotten the product from Central Region to Wa, Central Region to Tumu, to Gambaga? The customer or the consumer would have incurred an additional cost because It's either the customer will come all the way from that place to central region, which I don't know whether it is possible, or the customer might ask me to send it through a car, and through a car the customer is going to bear the charges. But once there's a middleman who purchases the product in bulk at the northern part of Ghana, he or she will be able to deliver the product to the customer without the customer incurring any extra charge. Intermediaries, especially retailers, actually talk and work with the buyers of products, and they feel the pulse of the market and know what those buyers want. These intermediaries actually communicate with the buyers often. The buyers share their grievances with them. The intermediaries tend to address the grievances of these buyers. This knowledge is sent back to the producer so that the appropriate assortment of products can be manufactured. I realized that there was a time where Ideal Milk on the market were asked to be taken back to the manufacturing firm. Let me ask this question: without the intermediaries or without the middlemen, how would the producer of Ideal Milk get to know that there was something wrong with it? There was a time that there was in the news. It was in the news that return or was it apple series or pineapple series? This was the product was defected, and the producer got to know through the help of what? Middlemen, because they deal with the customers directly, and if for anything at all, they would know better so that they would know how to communicate to the producer. Functions of marketing intermediaries. What functions do the marketing intermediaries play? What are their roles? 1. Breaking bulk, accumulating bulk, creating assortments, reducing transactions, transporting and storing. Breaking bulk, accumulating bulk, creating assortments, reducing transactions, transporting and storing. These are the roles that intermediaries play. We will take them one after the other. Breaking bulk. The bulk breaking function consists of buying in relatively large quantities and then selling in smaller quantities, passing the lesser amount of merchandise on to retailers, organizational buyers, other wholesalers, or other customers. So what they do is that what intermediaries do, especially wholesalers, they purchase the product in a very bulk quantity, then they sell it to retailers, other wholesalers, and the government, organizational buyers, and other customers who can purchase them. By accumulating large quantities of goods and then breaking them into smaller amounts suitable for many buyers, intermediaries can reduce the cost of distribution for both manufacturers and consumers. Sometimes, if a manufacturer thinks that it is a consumer who needs the product and must therefore incur every cost in getting the product, it may sound wrong, because in as much as the consumer needs the product, you also need the money. So there's a need for you and the consumer to share the cost. But intermediaries come in to save both the manufacturer and the consumer. Consumers need not buy and store great amounts of merchandise, increasing their own storage costs and running such risks as spoilage, fire, and theft. They need not to keep plenty products at a go. Wholesalers or middlemen would do that for them, so that at any point that they need the product, they can visit the middlemen for them. Manufacturers divide their outputs into the small order sizes, and retailers or consumers might prefer it. So with bean sellers, you realize that there are smaller beans, there are big beans, there are bigger beans, and we have the biggest beans, which comes with a higher price. And with that type of beans, when you put it on fire, it doesn't keep long and it gets cooked. Manufacturers have these different types, but middlemen try to purchase all these things, then categorize them according to what customers want. Anytime they want it, they can offer to them. Creating assortments. Another function that intermediaries perform is the creation of assortments of merchandise that would otherwise be available. This assortment function resolves the economic discrepancy resulting from the factory operator's natural inclination to produce a large quantity of a single product or a line of similar products and the consumer's desire to select from a wide variety of choices. What do wholesalers or middlemen do? Wholesalers that purchase many different products from different manufacturers can offer retailers a greater assortment of items than an individual manufacturer is able to provide. So what do middlemen do? Sometimes they go to buy different types of products, maybe from 2 or more manufacturers, and they display the assortment for customers or final consumers or retailers to come and make a purchasing decision of their choice, so that at the end of the day, they are not limited to a single product. Reducing transactions. There is one underlying reason why intermediaries can economically accumulate bulk, break bulk, and create assortment. The presence of intermediaries in the distribution system actually reduces the number of transactions necessary to accomplish the exchanges that keep the economy moving and consumers satisfied. Intermediaries not only reduce the number of transactions but also reduce the geographical distance that buyers and sellers must travel to complete exchange and spare manufacturers the trouble of locating and contracting individual potential customers. If, let's say for instance, the scenario that I gave, that people order shuttle from Wa, Gambaga to Mu, for instance, if these people are to incur all the costs and actually come all the way from Wa to Central Region just to complete an exchange, what do you think will happen to them? They are going to spend more than the amount they paid on the product, and which wouldn't be advisable. Therefore, intermediaries have come in to reduce all these transactions, to reduce the problem of different geographical locations or distances that prevents buyers from buying. Another function is the transportation and storage. Intermediaries transport and store goods. Intermediaries in many cases perform or manage 2 other functions, which is known as the transporting and storing. Merchandise must be physically moved from points of production to points of consumption. This process often involves storage or holding of the product at various spots along the way. As a marketer or as a middleman, let's say a middleman for instance, there's a need for a middleman to provide a storage place and also transport the goods or products from its point of production to its point of consumption. And during that process, there should be no defect on the product. It should be kept well. That is why there is a need for a very good packaging, because the product could be transported from the producer to the consumer. Intermediaries of all types, including retailers, frequently store goods until they are demanded by customers further along in the channel of distribution. We have the communication function. The intermediaries also play the role of communicators. Communication functions. Intermediaries perform a communication function, which includes buying and selling functions. The ultimate purpose of the communication link between the intermediary and the manufacturer is to transfer ownership. That is, consummate an exchange of title. In this regard, when the final consumer is buying from the intermediary or the middleman, he or she would have to communicate as if he produced the product. He or she would have to speak well. He or she would have to know about the benefits of the product. Middlemen may perform important promotional functions for manufacturers, which is mostly carried out by the sales forces. And most middlemen, like the sales forces for instance, they run promotional functions or promotional activities for manufacturers, which is mostly done intermittently. However, intermediaries also use advertising and search sales promotion tools as retail displays. These intermediaries display the product or advertise about the product, and with this, people visit the retail outlets or the displays to make a purchasing decision. In other words, intermediaries perform a selling function for the manufacturer. That is why there is a need for intermediaries to know a deeper insight about the product. The wholesaler provides a buyer function for retailers, organizational users, and other customers. It is the wholesaler's duty to perform a buyer function for retailers, organizational users, and other customers. A wholesaler's contact with numerous manufacturers allow it to evaluate the product quality standards of wide assortment of goods from competing manufacturers. These wholesalers actually get into contact with most of the consumers that at the end of the day, they disseminate every information they have given them. Thus, the retailer or other customer is free to specialize in the retailing or merchandising of the product. Facilitating functions. Many intermediaries perform other functions to help facilitate channel operations. Some of the facilitating functions a channel member might be involved in are providing extra services or risk-taking services. In almost everything they do, channel intermediaries perform a risk-taking function. Sometimes channel intermediaries purchase the goods in bulk quantity, and what happens? It turns out that customers or consumers end up not purchasing. It's a risk they take to buy the products in bulk quantity. What if tomorrow the products become obsolete or outdated? When purchasing a product from a manufacturer or supplier of any type, intermediaries run the risk of getting stuck with an item that falls out of flavor with the buying public because of fashion shifts or quickly dying facts. Like I keep on saying, as the world keeps on changing, so do customer taste and preference also changes. And therefore, it is a very risky venture for intermediaries to purchase the items in bulk and keep them in order for customers to purchase it in a later date. Sometimes there are spoilage, there are breakages, sometimes there's a fire outbreak on the side of the middleman and he or she bears the cost. It is also possible for product to spoil while in storage or be lost through fire or some other disaster. Intermediaries bear these risks in addition to risks in offering credit to individuals and organizations to whom they sell to. And sometimes what happens is that because the product has been with the middleman for so long and maybe there happen to be numerous products, they tend to sell it out to final consumers on credit. Some end up not paying the intermediaries and they would have to bear the cost. Some end up traveling, getting sick, some even leave the world, whereby we say that it's a bad debt and this bad debt needs to be taken care of by the intermediary. This brings us to the end of session 1 and the unit 5. I will see you in the next session. Thank you.